Hello indie game fans, indie games are back. We have a regular sized week of new releases, so let's begin with Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, the sequel to a game from 2021 titled Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. So while our main character does look kind of cute, don't let that fool you, he is a hardened criminal through and through. This time, he is teaming up with members of the Pickle Gang in order to pull off a bank heist, buying weapons and equipment off the dark web, and fighting the police, in which the action-adventure style twin-stick shooter combat looks good and should have great writing as well. I previewed this title when looking at upcoming fighting games, in which First Cut Samurai Duel is a weapon fighter with both a 1v1 competitive mode as well as a story campaign of sorts, in which you take on multiple enemies. The pixel art is well done, but do be warned that it is pretty gory with ample use of blood spatter, which I suppose has roots in reality and not the stylized version that you see in movies and anime. You are dodging, blocking and parrying attacks in order to get around your opponent's guard, in which the possibility of a one-hit kill adds to the thrill, just like in Bushido Blade, with the single player mode being a great idea. Indie developer Red Codex is still slept upon in 2024, so if you have not heard, their specialty is in turn-based tactics titles like Final Fantasy Tactics, with their next game Kingsvein being of interest. You are reclaiming an infested castle city on the back of your wyvern, leading a party of characters from 15 different classes in turn-based tactical combat. Interestingly, it talks about using abilities for exploration as well, such as freezing rivers with your magic in order to access a new area, so it is not just limited to combat scenarios, where if you love this, any of their previous titles would be worth a play, especially the open world game Horizon's Gate. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. An impressive looking survival city builder that seems similar to Frostpunk is New Cycle, but instead of the freezing cold, it takes place in a world after an apocalyptic solar flare has occurred, leading to a new cycle in the Age of Man, in which you have to lead your people and to survive. The management systems look pretty in-depth, so if you're a fan of the genre, do check it out. I recently mentioned The Last Flame in my video previewing upcoming strategy roguelites of the year, since this is an auto-battler title in the vein of games like Auto Chess and Teamfight Tactics, using quite the classic fantasy theme and setting. You are recruiting and upgrading heroes, equipping them with loot as well as crafted gear, in which the strategy centers around the synergies between the different characters. There have been a number of successful indie auto-battlers, which I think still have an appeal in 2024. Smaller games begin with Aground Zero, the next game from the developer of Aground, which was a Terraria-like crafting title that advanced through the ages as you played, with this new game being a first-person underground factory builder title instead. The world has ended, so you're now attempting to survive underground, having hostiles to deal with and resources to mine and process, and looks like it has potential. Here's a neat looking title that might be of interest in All Quiet in the Trenches, a turn-based strategy title set in World War I, in which you're commanding soldiers at the front line of the war, in which it is not just about tactics and commands during battle, but also having to take care of the physical and mental needs of your soldiers. An interesting turn-based RPG that I've had my eye on is Atlas Wept, since it sure seems to be inspired by Earthbound, allowing you to play from the perspective of two groups of characters as their stories draw ever closer. Interestingly, this has turn-based combat with bullet hell elements, so yes, very Undertale inspired as well, and looks like the hidden gem of the week. An impressive looking title with a bunch of hype behind it is Contain, a tactical co-op first-person shooter in which your squad of 4 soldiers must work together to contain supernatural anomalies, looking kind of creepy, and comes to us from a mid-sized developer based out of Istanbul, which I have not heard about before, so I'll be watching to see on this.
Play with one of 101 different factions.
Hardcore 4X strategy fans will be familiar with the Dominions series, with Rise of the Pantokrator being the 6th entry, in which this fantasy world and the sheer number of factions just seems insane to me. Having 101 different factions, each with unique units, and it's a deep strategy title.
Your blessing to your units and your lands. Conquer provinces from independence to grow your realm. Then control these lands with small squads, or battle with large armies. Support these armies with powerful magics, or destroy enemy armies with devastating spells. Use thousands of unique units. Cast over 1,000 different spells. Forge powerful artifacts. Transform your body into wild beasts, or through use of lichcraft become a powerful undead mage. Summon outrageously powerful champions. Kit these champions with magical items to take on enemy hordes. Summon strange and powerful magical creatures. Collect blood slaves from the population. Quell the resulting unrest. Use these slaves to summon cosmic horrors. Or spend their lives to build armies of powerful demons. Put up powerful global enchantments to drown the world in horrors, or block the sun and starve the land. Fight to control different dimensions. Wage wars with larger battles than ever. Our new mounting system lets you equip items for your fearsome steeds. Discover an entirely new path of magic, glamour. Engage in diplomacy in single-player games. Or play in long or short-form games with our large, active multiplayer community, with continuous games running over the past 15 years. Make enemies, make allies, and even trade. But eventually you must vanquish all, and claim the thrones to ascend to true godhood.
An adorable looking smaller game of note is MiceGard, an action strategy title in which you lead Viking mice, commanding a small group of them as they take on all sorts of enemies. Here's an interesting pixel art detective game that comes out of South Korea, in which no case should remain unsolved, sees a retired senior inspector being approached by a young police officer who asks her to reopen an old case, in which everyone seems to have been lying, being a plot that I swear has been in some Korean drama that my wife has watched at some point, but to have it in video game form sure is a curiosity. We also have the 1.0 release of Rising Lords this week, a medieval turn-based strategy game that nailed the medieval-inspired art style, where I really get confused between this game and Battle Brothers since both have a similar look. However, they are distinctly different games, with this leaning a little bit more big picture and having, I suppose, a more meta strategy layer to it, where it has done okay so far in early access, so pick it up if you've been waiting for the 1.0 release. Another curiosity of the week is The Cub, a 2D platformer which self-describes as Jungle Book meets Armageddon, coming to us from the developer of Golf Club Nostalgia, formerly Golf Club Wasteland, and is set in the same world, in which the rich people have fled to Mars and are taking recreational, leisurely trips back to Wasteland Earth in order to play golf, with The Cub, of course, being the descendants of the humans left behind.
Rockets were dying in combat, but we, the orphans and animals, didn't fight. Instead, together we adapted to nature that grew out of the rubble.
Lungs and legs propel me. You can't fire me. I move through life like water. No one saw me. I'm the sun.
The demise of Adobe Flash meant that a whole bunch of classic games were lost to time, so some of those developers are making the effort to either port or somehow remake their games in another engine, but critically still had to feel like the original, with the Fancy Pants Adventures Classic Pack being one such compilation of a beloved series, also adding in bonus new content and upgraded visuals, so if you have any nostalgia for this, be sure to pick it up. We also have the standalone release of the Pony Factory, which was previously bundled together under the Dread X collection, coming to us from David and John Semensky, who made Dusk and My Friendly Neighborhood, with the short blurb on the Steam page just stating, Winston thought that he could use heavy machinery and power from the depths of hell to transform sinful men into magic ponies. Winston was wrong. So how's that for an intriguing setup? We also have another Bullet Heaven roguelite released this week as well in Time Survivors, in which you're allowed to play as characters from history ranging from Tesla to Abraham Lincoln and Cleopatra, and might be of interest. Just a quick one here in Cult of the Lamb Sins of the Flesh, a free update to a tremendously popular indie game that seems to be the result of a viral meme in which the developers promised to add sex to the game, adding new progression systems in the sinful path, along with a new weapon and more, in which this game is quickly becoming an institution of its own in indie games. I did preview the narrative CRPG Sovereign Syndicate not too long ago, in which it's a title that's more focused on writing and choices as compared to rolling dice in combat, with Disco Elysium being the standard that everyone points to in the space. This developer is, however, doing something different with their tarot card system, as well as a 3-protagonist narrative setup, along with an intriguing central mystery, with early reviews being very positive, which makes it of interest. If you're an indie developer and have no idea how to start with marketing your game, get on my mailing list via the link in the description below, where I'll send you some free templates and guides soon. We also have the 1.0 release of Immortal Life, a Chinese cultivation farming sim that looks promising and is for fans of the genre. After a short delay, Three Kingdoms Zhaoyun is supposed to release this week, which was shifted from December 2023, in which this Chinese action RPG draws upon the classic novel Three Kingdoms or San Guo, in which you play as a well-known general in his youth, with it having fantasy elements like elemental powers or giant beasts to battle, and simply looks awesome as a Diablo-style title. Here's a game which just announced its release date 5 days ago, in which Pale World is one of my most anticipated releases, so of course I'm happy to share the early access date. This is a third-person shooter with monster taming elements, in which you can ride on monsters and fight alongside with them, all while using assault rifles and rocket launchers as well. However, the insane thing about this game is that the monsters themselves can wield guns, can be enslaved in the sweatshop to produce weapons, and can even kill other monsters or pals as they are called, such as throwing an electrical pal into the water to kill the water types within. So it is one of the weirdest and hence most interesting releases. For a look at upcoming action titles, watch this video for more.